The last couple of classes, we've been using sine, cosine, and tangent, SOH, TOA, to find missing sides. In this lesson, we're going to reverse it and find missing angles. And it's almost the same thing. There's just one major difference. So we're going to work backwards to find a missing angle. So how might we find the missing angle knowing the sides? That is our goal for today. We're going to work backwards. So a couple things that might help us is we're still going to need to label the sides, the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So we still need to do that. And we still want to use SOH, TOA. So all that stays the same. So in class, we tried to predict using a ratio table. Let's say we did the opposite divided by the hypotenuse here. The opposite side is 3 divided by the hypotenuse. That is 0.6, 0.6. Well, let's look at our table. Opposite divided by hypotenuse. Where is 0.6? It's going to be around 40 degrees. Now that's 0.64, so it's a little less than 40 degrees. So a good prediction would be like, I don't know, 38. Just something less than 40, but pretty close to it. That is a reasonable guess. So we're working backwards. We're going to divide them, and once we know that decimal, we'll know what the reference angle is. All right. So that was kind of like where we were going using the table, but we're going to just use the calculator so we don't have to use the table. So we can work backwards, right? If we have two sides, we can work backwards to find the missing angle using sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, what are opposites or inverses when we work backwards in algebra? Add and subtract are opposites. Multiply and divide are opposites. Square and square root are opposites. So if I want to solve an equation, I do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 3 for both sides here. This is 3 times 3. I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides here. C squared equals 36. I'm going to take the square root of both sides here. I'm going to do the opposite to solve for C. That is called an inverse. So the inverse of sine, cosine, and tangent is sine -1, cos -1, tan -1. It's just the opposite. To find this on your calculator, it's just a button. All you got to hit, that's sine, cosine, tangent. To do the opposite, you just hit this function button in Desmos, and you get sine, cosine, tangent, -1. Just the opposite. So let's see how we would do a problem. If you have a TI-89, you want to hit sine, cosine, and tangent again, but you want to hit the second button. See how it's blue, sine, -1? That's the opposite of sine. So that is the inverse of sine. Just like add and subtract are inverses, sine -1 is the opposite of sine. So let's see if we could find this missing angle using a calculator. Well, let's use sine again. Let's say this is my opposite side for this angle, and this is my hypotenuse. I could use adjacent hypotenuse. It doesn't matter because I have all 3 sides, but I'm going to use sine just because that's, I think, the best one. It's the first one. So SOH, TOA, if I'm going to use the opposite and hypotenuse, I'm going to use sine. So sine, I don't know the angle, so I'm going to call it theta, equals opposite divided by hypotenuse. Now, what is that angle? I want to solve or get that angle by itself. I got to move sine over. I got to do the inverse to move something across the equal sign. So I'm going to do the inverse. So theta is equal to sine to the -1 power. Or inverse sine, the opposite of sine, 3/5. Now you might be saying, what just happened? All we did was to move sine over, we do the opposite. The opposite of sine is sine -1. It's just a button in your calculator. It means I want to find the angle. So I'm just going to type in sine to the -1, and the numbers are 3 divided by 5. So that's going to be a 36.8, or if I round it to the nearest tenth, 36.9 degree angle. So I know theta equals 36.9. Now thinking back to our first problem that we did, right, using that table, we said it was a little less than 40, so 39 was correct. The calculation